What is Suilend and how do we use this borrowing and lending dApp on Sui? Let's dive in this tutorial. It's a little bit of an overview to get us started. So first up, here we are at Twitter. I always like to start at Twitter at Suilend Protocol. This is the official Twitter. You can find it here, 110,000 followers. Scrolling on down, you can find plenty of information regarding any campaigns that are going on or new news. Now they have a token out already. So they've just recently done this. They airdropped a large amount and they currently have a market cap of around about $172 million. You can see more information regarding Suilend and their token price right here on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko. At present, they've got almost half the supply of a brand new token out already, and it's being distributed, which is very, very good. And before we specifically dive into Suilend itself, I just want to draw your attention back to DeFi Llama. If you haven't watched anything on DeFi Llama, or if you haven't seen my previous tutorials, then this will be new to you. But this shows us the total value locked on different blockchains. And specifically, we can click on Sui here, and there's 1.85 billion. Here we can see if we click on this drop-down box, the amount of TVL, including how much is borrowed, fees they're making every year, and what their revenue is every year. So people have asked, what are fees and what is the revenue? So the fees coming in, the money that comes in, some of that goes to the lenders, some of it goes to the borrowers. This is basically money coming in and being distributed. And then the revenue, this is generally what the actual application makes. So this is making currently almost $11 million per year. That will go to the team. The team will then disperse that amongst their engineers, marketing budgets, etc. And then down below, $6 million, that's their total raise. So this is where they do VC rounds and they get an actual raise of funds to go and actually create the product and ship the product. Then over here, this is the growing TVL. That's the amount of money that's actually locked in an ecosystem or locked on dApp. And then it started to grow and grow and grow, especially around token 2049 and Solana Breakpoint. And then it just kind of rocketed as the Sui price started to rocket as well. You can compare this graph, how it looks, to other big dApps in the space by going back to home, maybe scrolling on down, having a look at another borrow and lend market. So Aave's been around. This is on Ethereum and multiple other EVMs. It's been around for quite some time. An EVM is a Ethereum virtual machine. So basically a network that behaves like Ethereum, Polygon, Base, BNB chain, etc. So they had a massive amount of TVL on the previous cycle. It dipped down, which is normal during a bear market, and then they came up. These are deemed the GOATs when it comes to lending. My favorite borrow and lending market is actually Camino Lend. This is on Solana. You can see similar thing, really low TVL last year, and they've just been rocketing up. So now let's go back to Twitter and let's click on the official link, suilend.fi. It's very important that I mention this at this point. Please use the official links from Twitter. If you just Google it, sometimes there's a fake website that they've done a very good job of copying, and you want to go officially to the actual exact links and then come over on the right-hand side and click Launch App. So this is the dashboard of Suilend. Now, what this allows us to do is deposit collateral, which is a token such as Sui. We can go and deposit Sui or a liquid staked version of Sui called SUI. And then once we go and deposit this, we can go and borrow against it. So if you're quite bullish on Sui, you might want to go and put in, say, $10,000 worth of Sui token into this liquidity pool. That allows us to go and borrow another asset like USDC or USDT. And then we can use that to go and use some DeFi farming protocols. Maybe we want to go and cash them out, send it to our Cast debit card, and they'll allow us to go and buy some flowers for the girlfriend or wife, or buy a meal, or do whatever it is you want to do with it. Because if we believe the price of Sui may appreciate, then we may want to keep on holding that, borrow against it, and then go and use those funds in some way. Now, of course, nothing is financial advice, never will be. This is an educational tutorial. I've been DeFi farming and using applications such as this since 2020. Back then, the UI wasn't as clean. When it came to Sui, there was nothing even existing. Sui wasn't around. Instead, we used Ethereum and Polygon and whatnot. Then it became Solana. And of course, I use Solana a lot, but I think Sui also has a decent amount of potential. Another very important thing with Suilend is they're created by the same team that created Solend on Solana back in 2021. Solend's now rebranded to Save, but essentially they're builders with some skill set in the space. So if we have a look down here, we can see all of the different deposits that we can add. Down here, we've got a tab that says deprecated. Deprecated means that we can go and put it in here. So it's kind of like it's not being supported actively right now. Then back up the top. So we've got deposits. So this is how much crypto's in each individual pool. So there's $236 million worth, or 50.2 million SUI right here. And then there's the borrow field. So how much people have actually borrowed. In this case, borrowing is not actually open, but we can see down here, we've got borrows for SUI, $20.4 million worth of SUI has been borrowed. Then we've got LTV BW. LTV is the common form. BW is not really super common, but LTV is loan to value ratio. So this determines the borrowing power provided by a deposited asset when opening a new borrow position. As an example, we go and deposit, say, $100 worth of SUI. We can borrow 70% of that in USDC or something. So we can go and borrow $70 worth of USDC. The next thing we have is borrow weight. This is a multiplier on the value of a borrowed asset applied when calculating positions eligibility to be liquidated. Typically, it would just be 1. However, with some assets like isolated assets that can be a little bit more volatile, they will have a higher rating such as 2. And if we have a look at meme coins, that 2 here as well. Then we've got a deposit APR. APR means annual percentage rate. This is the annual yield that you're going to get by depositing an asset. It's variable. It changes depending on demand. As an example, with SUI, if we go and deposit our SUI tokens here, we're getting 4%. We're also accumulating some send points. We're getting rewards in SUI, and we're getting interest itself. So this is a pretty good deal to go and deposit it into here. With USDC, you can see it's getting 16%, and it also gets potentially some send points as well. Very, very minor, but it does get some send points. These send points, as I understand it, that's part of season 2, and they will actually transfer over and become the send token at the end of season 2. This is their way of attracting more liquidity and more users to the platform. Then over here, we've got the borrow APR. So this is how much you actually pay in order to open a position. So once again, we go and put in our SUI tokens over here. We go and borrow some USDC, and the amount of USDC value increases as we pay interest into the position. Then when we repay it, we will repay the interest and the amount that we actually borrowed. And then we've got the collateral free to withdraw if we want to. That's a little bit of an overview of how it works. Up the top here, we've got the send token generation event. This is where you can connect your wallet and see if you have a send allocation. If you've already been playing over here, you're going to potentially have some send tokens that you can claim. Otherwise, over here, this is where you can convert your Solend. This is the actual token from Solana, and you can convert it into send. Then up the top here, you've got points. So we can accumulate points here for season 2. You've got a swap feature here. This is powered by a dApp called Aftermath. We'll cover this in another tutorial. You've got a bridge. I've covered this bridging tool in the previous bridging tutorials. And then you've got a link here to Spring SUI. Spring SUI is a liquid staking token for SUI. Other key things to be aware of, whenever you're using DeFi, there's always smart contract risk. We've covered that in a previous tutorial that will be linked above if you want to learn about that. And also, my preference whenever I'm using an application is actually to use an application because I want to use an application, to use a dApp. I don't like to use it to try and farm airdrops or anything like that. So if that's the kind of tutorial you're after, I'm not really going to be covering those sort of things. Ultimately, I believe the blockchain is there to be used. So as opposed to just buying SUI on Binance or Kraken or Bybit or somewhere like that and holding it and then selling it when it goes higher, if it goes higher, I prefer to actually move it onto the blockchain, take custody of the assets. When it gains a certain value, put it onto a ledger, borrow against it, and do different things on the blockchain, actually using the blockchain. So that's all for the intro into Suilend. In the next tutorial, we'll actually dive in and start to open some positions.